been kind of aimlessly floating for the past few years, and you've since discovered your neurodivergence, and you spend all of your free time learning about yourself and unlearning trauma responses due to a lifetime of masking. Hi, you okay? The fact that we are expected to grow out of our autism is extremely evident by the sheer lack of resources for autistic adults. They don't want to help us. They don't want to hear from us. They don't want us to succeed. They don't want us to exist. That's why ABA therapy is a thing. It's essentially conversion therapy for autistic kids. And it's fucked up. I'm just one of undoubtedly millions of undiscovered autistic adults floating around wondering what the fuck is wrong with them. We exist. We're here. And we need help.
Here's your goober meal, sir.
I'm supposed to get a toy with this? Thanks.
I'm here, and I give a shit. Because I don't want to wish what I've been through for the first 30 years of my life on anyone else. A lifetime of questions, a lifetime of misinterpretations, miscalculations, misunderstandings, arguments based on me sounding rude when really I'm just talking, tone policing, body language critiques, body dysmorphia, an eating disorder, complex PTSD, multiple abusive romantic relationships, and an abusive household, putting myself dead fucking last every single time. And I finally had enough of that shit. I rang bells that cannot be unrung. I solved mysteries of mine that were decades old. And it's because of other autistic and ADHD creators online, on this app and on Twitter. I have found my people, and I want to make sure that my people can find me too. So I really want to know, how are you today? I hope today is better, at least. I know it's a fucking fuckery fuck show right now, but we're all just doing our best. You know, I do love y'all, and I am here for y'all. And I mean that shit, okay? And Picky loves you too. And him so sleepy, I just woke him up for this. I'm the best mom in the world. This is for every single person who has ever had a negative thought about their body. We're made of mostly water, constantly fluctuating, ebbing and flowing. Clothes are stagnant. They don't change. Seasons change, bodies change, clothes don't change, and that will never be your fault. Fluctuating weight is not a personal failing. It's normal. Okay, and please know, I'm not trying to be harsh when I say this, but you'll probably never be the same size again as you were in high school. And that's okay. That's okay. You're not at fault for having that mindset, because look at the bombardment of torture devices on this planet disguised as weight loss solutions. Diet culture is fucking poisonous, and it was designed to make you hate yourself. So please, before making any drastic changes to your diet or drinking laxative teas, please remember this. Someone will always stand to profit from your self-hatred, whether you mean for them to or not. So in a way, to develop self-love is to stick it to the patriarchy. There are no fast and hard rules to approach or achieve self-love. But one thing that's helped me most as a recovering people pleaser is to imagine myself as one of my loved ones. And would I want to be talking mad shit about her to her face? Absolutely not. You don't deserve the mental and verbal lashings that you give yourself. You truly do not. I think we should all just treat ourselves, our minds, and our bodies like they're someone that we love. I mean, we're all stuck in our bodies anyways, so ourselves should be a nice place to reside. It should feel like home.
You've forgotten what childhood is supposed to feel like.
Please watch the rest of that video. A few months ago, I was introduced to the idea of parentifying or being parentified as a child. And that's essentially being made to worry and be concerned and fix adult problems. And being the oldest child, the oldest daughter, I was very much put into that position my whole life. And compounded with being undiscovered AuDHD, I have been told so many times that I'm an old soul and that I'm mature for my age. And yeah, part of it is my AuDHD, but another big part of that is being parentified. So I'm 30, but I feel like a 13-year-old. Like literally, I'm 30 going on 13. And I'm doing shit in my adult life to reclaim my childhood. Buying purses shaped like dinosaurs. I just spent $20 on scrunchies on Etsy last night. I'm reclaiming my life.
Go ahead. Let's light this candle, huh?
First and foremost, congrats on finding your spice. I fucking love that. And speaking on my own experience with finding my own spice, it set a lot of shit into motion simultaneously. And when I say a lot of shit, I mean it fucking uprooted my whole life. Everyone's process is different, of course, but for me, discovering my spice involved a lot of doctor's appointments and referrals and dismissals and rescheduling and assessments and articles and research. And in doing so, I turned over every rock in my life and found a lot of fucking shit underneath. I'd been in denial about decades of abuse, so once that bell was rung, I really had to start stepping back from the people in my life whose first defense is always to dismiss me out of hand. Stop being so sensitive. You can't be autistic. You're hot. You can't be autistic. You can speak. You can't be autistic. You can sing and paint. The people who weren't interested in understanding me made themselves known very quickly, and I just stepped back. I began prioritizing my own needs for truly the first time ever, and I began acknowledging the fact that I've been a people pleaser my whole life. I had zero boundaries, and once I began discovering my truest, most authentic neurospicy self, the people in my life who were used to me having no boundaries got really fucking upset with me, and that was really hard. I've been through like a year and a half of like cyclical grief and reprocessing my entire life through my true autistic lens. I tried to confide in the people who I've needed approval from my whole life, and I was met with a lot of silence. But like, what the fuck did I expect from people who don't own up to their shit and dismiss me out of hand? So, friends, family, whatever, I've learned through all of this that if someone shows you who they are, believe them. And yes, it is supremely, profoundly lonely, this process. But after betraying myself for the first 30 years of my life, this process is absolutely worth it. So my advice is to continue to learn more about yourself, continue to dig deep, continue to find answers to questions that you didn't even know that you had. And I promise you, the right people will be there for you. And as for the ones who fall away, bye! And holy shit, when I posted my first video 5 days ago, I had 450 followers on here. There are now 11,000 of you. I am being perceived. So I thought it'd be a good idea to formally introduce myself. I'm Tatum, I'm 30. I am a self-taught artist and classically trained vocalist. I'm left-handed and a Capricorn. I have a beautiful partner named PJ, and I love him very much. And together we raise several cats. Several. And when the pandemic started and I was forced to be alone with my own thoughts and nothing to do but be online, this material sort of found me. This material that answered lifelong questions that I did not know that I even had. So after 5 or 6 months of legwork on my own, I took my findings to a psychiatrist and was diagnosed with AuDHD. After a few months of being on that medication, there were eccentricities and qualities of mine that either emerged for the first time or re-emerged that AuDHD did not explain. 8 months of legwork later, I bring it to the same psychiatrist who refuses to assess me 2 times, and I end up posting about that experience on Twitter, going viral, being interviewed by Glamour UK, and becoming an advocate. Spent the next 6 months there making discoveries, meeting people, making connections and friends, and building a following. And when Melon Mustard bought Twitter and we all said goodbye to each other every night for a week and a half, I was like, if this shit goes down, I need to have a backup plan. And I had been meaning to post here my similar findings and finding more of my people on here. So when I uploaded my first 3 videos, it was very much like a Hail Mary, like a it's about to die tonight. Just post it on TikTok and go over there. I was not expecting this kind of reception. It is beyond humbling and honoring. It is not a position that I take lightly whatsoever. I really try to make sure that my information is accurate, inclusive, and helpful. So to each and every one of you who are here or on Twitter, thank you so much for being here, and let's continue with the shit show, shall we?
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! The whole time you were... The whole time!
Just know that I'm watching.
Being in a state of constant revelation and discovery and epiphany is fucking exhausting. It's like I'm just tuning in. It's like, oh, yeah, you've been kind of aimlessly floating. I know I say that all the time, but like it's the most accurate way I can use to describe my existence. Literally, aimlessly floating. And I was laying in bed a few nights ago, and my mind was endlessly running, and I just did a quick little like voice to text blurb about what was in my mind, and it kind of pertains to this. It kind of encapsulates, I guess, the whole last 18 months or so. So I'll read it now. Because of when and where I was born, I had no control over my access to help. And I'll add a caveat here. Fucking no one did. No one did. None of us had control. I have no control over the emotional maturity of my relatives or the security of my surroundings. I have used and continue to use every avenue available to me. So when I travel across that referral chain and reach the end and haven't found my solution, that is not my fault. I'm here because I have used every available resource covered by my insurance. Straddling the poverty line as a late diagnosed AuDHDer is not my fault. My neurodivergence wasn't the only bell that's been ringing. I am now wholeheartedly and unapologetically anti-capitalist. Whoa, Sleepy Tatum's on one. If living through a global pandemic didn't instill a modicum of empathy in you, I legitimately want nothing to do with you. Okay, yeah, that's a fact. I stand by that. Awake Tatum stands by that. Not to get tangential, but to be fair, being in a room with me for really any length of time will result in me briefly, at minimum, touch on the fact that everything is fucking fucked and the whole world is pretending, except for me, and it makes me feel insane. So yeah, if you can make sense of that, all the more power to you. It's just like the same million thoughts in swift, cyclic succession for the last 2 years. So yeah, it's fucking wild. We're here. We're here. And we're doing it. And we're doing our best. I'm proud of you. Every single one of you. Yeah, nothing further, Your Honor. Bestie. I have never related to a comment more. I've been picking my scalp my whole fucking life. And I never thought I'd say that on the internet. But here we are. Yeah, it's a thing. My scalp is sore as shit. The more stressed I am, the more I do it. And the more my scalp hurts. But yeah, this comment made me want to just like rip the band-aid off and say it online. I pick my scalp, okay? I don't do it consciously. It is a form of stimming. I don't do it to harm myself. It's a compulsion. I wouldn't say that it soothes my stress. I kind of go into a dissociative state when I do it, and then when I come back, my scalp is sore as shit, and I'm like, oh my god, like that's when the shame sets in. But I shouldn't be ashamed, and neither should you. And I'm really glad that you left this comment, because I really do want to talk about this more, because it's something that I've been holding in my whole life and I was ashamed for a long time. But like, you shouldn't be ashamed. Of course, it's easier for me to tell y'all that than it is for me to do that. But I'll talk about this more very soon. And I can even put pictures if you want. I mean, fuck it. Yeah, this is important. And I appreciate all of my fellow sore scalped hotties out there. You're not alone, and you shouldn't be ashamed. A lot of y'all seem to resonate with my previous voice-to-text note blurb talking about capitalism and how everything fucking sucks. And I'm burnt the fuck out today, so I'm thumbing through my note app to see if there's any more that like reflect my current state of mind that I wrote earlier this year, and I found another one. I'm going to read it now. Tone policing. Too stoic, you're mean. Too enthusiastic, you're too much. Boisterous speech is interpreted as aggressive. We're chiseled down to a size that can fit neurotypical life to our detriment. This leads to inevitable autistic burnout that can last anywhere from 1 to 5 years. Not months. Years. Vocal stems are shushed, physical stems are mocked, so we internalize it. It's like shaking a bottle of soda but never opening it. The pressure just builds, suppression after suppression. The inside of my head sounds like a cavernous hall of every song I've ever heard playing all at once. Sprinkled in are little quips and 1 to 2 word quotes from something I've watched, and I repeat them. It's bonkers that I can share my lived experience with a medical professional who only knows my name because it's on his computer and have him dismiss my words out of hand. It's not just male doctors. Female doctors regurgitate their own internalized misogyny too. I'd be so bold as to say that almost everyone does until they actively work to unlearn it. Yeah, all of that and then some I'm feeling today. So if you're in that same situation with me, that same mentality, same burnt outedness, I'm here and I see you and I appreciate you, and I hope you take the time to do something that you love today. I'm about to play some Pokemon Scarlet this evening, so that will be my little treat. And please take care of yourselves and drink some water, guys. Have y'all been drinking water?
And whatever it is acting autistic now that they have a diagnosis.
Please go watch the rest of this creator's video. They do a really great job of articulating why people who are freshly discovered autistic or ADHD or both seem to act or appear more autistic or more ADHD or more AuDHD. And as someone who's only been diagnosed with both for a year or less, those same things that people on the outside notice, I also take notice of internally. And a lot of this contributes to my ongoing imposter syndrome. It's very much like, oh, well, you've made it 29 years without anyone noticing. Why now? Why all of a sudden now? It's really fucked up to like blame someone for the shittiness of their surroundings if they don't have any control over it. And moving out on my own as an adult was something that I did in my late 20s, and I was discovered ADHD and autistic in my late 20s. It's almost as if moving out on my own and beginning the healing process and the processing of my lifelong traumas and being in a safe environment where I could explore these things allowed me to listen to my body, and not only listen, but just pay better attention to how I feel in certain situations, and taking back the power that I wasn't afforded as a child to set these boundaries for myself. Only speaking for myself here, my AuDHD discovery is in direct correlation with my ability to set boundaries, and that includes for myself. So to you viewing me from the outside, you might see that I all of a sudden can't go to the grocery store anymore. Well, she's been going her whole life and getting groceries. Why all of a sudden is it too much for her? It's because every time I was in a store, I was fighting for my life inside my head. Couldn't wait to get out of there. Always forgot half of what I was going to get and got twice the amount of things I wasn't supposed to get. The internal struggle is invisible to the naked eye of anyone else, but looking back on my own life, it is so face-smackingly obvious. So I'm not putting on, like this creator that I Stitch said. I'm taking off. I'm letting go. Instead of picking up one piece and dropping two, I'm just letting go of everything because none of this bullshit was mine to carry in the first place. These past 2 years have taught me that I deserve to forgive myself for things that were never even my fault. So yes, as a late discovered autistic adult, I am going to honor my boundaries, my limits, my sensitivities. If going somewhere can put me into overload, I simply will not go. Please know that this is infinitely more nuanced than I could ever articulate in a 3-minute TikTok. So the whole listening to yourself shit is easier said than done. It's a constant struggle and I constantly fuck it up, but letting your true self come through for the first time is not you pretending. You have finally stopped pretending. So many parts of a child's life are out of that child's control. Uncomfortable clothes, loud noises, icky food, confusing rules, who they spend time with and how long they spend their time there. This list goes on forever. As an adult, I have the power to make my own choices. I wear what I like, eat what I like, do what I like. Because for me, the alternative to that is living in a perpetual state of sensory overload. And that is why I don't remind you of your 8-year-old autistic nephew. On my planet, we call that a special interest, a thirst for knowledge, passion. One thing about me, I love learning new things. And 2 things about me, I don't half-ass anything that I give a shit about. So you've known about your neurodivergence for a while, and that is wonderful, and I'm truly happy for you. Then you should know firsthand what it's like to live in a world that's not built for you. And not that you care, but I found out 30 years late. I've spent my entire life clawing my way uphill while everyone else around me got to walk on flat ground, and then I would get blamed for struggling. I've been busy answering lifelong questions and sharing what I've learned with any and everyone who needs to hear it. So instead of wasting your precious time harassing strangers online, you should harness that intense bitterness that's just festering in you. That sort of raw power that that you clearly aren't using properly. You could turn that into intense compassion. You could hold space for late discovered neurodivergent folks. You could share coping skills, tricks, stories, anything you've learned along the way. Or you could shut the fuck up. I've put off talking about this on here as long as I can. It's just really grueling and fucking traumatizing for me to talk about it. It takes a lot out of me, but I had a phone interview today with the investigator that's actually assigned to this report, so all of it's fresh in my mind, and I'm just going to share my post about it that went viral on Twitter back in May. It kind of encapsulates everything in a cliff note form, and I don't need to give the blow-by-blow, but essentially, here's what happened. This week, I brought up an autism assessment with my psychiatrist for the second time. The first time, he told me I can't be autistic because I don't speak in a monotone voice. During this visit, he told me I can't be autistic because I'm a good communicator. The first time he dismissed me was in September 2021, so I spent the next several months researching, taking assessments, speaking to other autistic people, doing my due diligence to come armed with knowledge to my next appointment, and this is that appointment at the end of May of this year. I told him that there exists a generation of girls and women just like me who fell through the cracks, who always knew we were different but couldn't pinpoint how. We were dismissed as weird, anxious, rude, cold bitches. We've suffered in silence our whole lives. He said a, quote, cornerstone of autism is the inability to communicate. He didn't know that I'd been preparing for this for 8 months, learning, practicing my phrasing, consciously unmasking my traits. I told him it wasn't a cornerstone for all autistic people, as autism exists on a spectrum. He kept cutting me off to ask me, do you know how well you're communicating right now? Do you hear how well you're communicating? Like, yes, motherfucker, I've been practicing this for the better part of a year. Anyway, he asked if I was aware of my communication skills. I said yes. He kept harping on it, so I gave him some context. I began reading at age 3. I was the youngest in my school's history to be in the gifted program. I spent years in therapy as an adult working on my communication. Here it comes. He responded by saying, maybe it's narcissism. Maybe you're a narcissist. He said this after I'd told him about my 11 accumulated years of emotional and psychological abuse at the hands of narcissists. After I'd told him about autistic masking, after telling him how often girls and women go undiagnosed, and that was his response. I said, I'm giving you information to help you help me. Women are allowed to be confident in their abilities. We don't have to go through life hating ourselves for existing. And he said, you're bragging about your IQ, and he also said the greatness of your qualities and how you're smarter than the experts. I couldn't fit all of that into a tweet, but I was not only stunned, but fucking horrified. I provided pertinent contextual information and he called it bragging. I asked him if he was aware of the updated guidelines for autism that were published in the March's update of the DSM-5, and he said, listen, I don't think you have autism. And I literally said to him, so that's a no. I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to pop the rest of the thread on here and you can pause to read the rest. This thread ended up being viewed over 2 million times. I was interviewed by Glamour UK about this. And if you want to read more, go to my Twitter and check it out. It's a pinned thread up top. I've put off talking about this on here as long as I can. It's just really grueling and fucking traumatizing for me to talk about it. It takes a lot out of me, but I had a phone interview today with the investigator that's actually assigned to this report, so all of it's fresh in my mind, and I'm just going to share my post about it that went viral on Twitter back in May. It kind of encapsulates everything in a cliff note form, and I don't need to give the blow-by-blow, but essentially, here's what happened. This week, I brought up an autism assessment with my psychiatrist for the second time. The first time, he told me I can't be autistic because I don't speak in a monotone voice. During this visit, he told me I can't be autistic because I'm a good communicator. The first time he dismissed me was in September 2021, so I spent the next several months researching, taking assessments, speaking to other autistic people, doing my due diligence to come armed with knowledge to my next appointment, and this is that appointment at the end of May of this year. I told him that there exists a generation of girls and women just like me who fell through the cracks, who always knew we were different but couldn't pinpoint how. We were dismissed as weird, anxious, rude, cold bitches. We've suffered in silence our whole lives. He said a, quote, cornerstone of autism is the inability to communicate. He didn't know that I'd been preparing for this for 8 months, learning, practicing my phrasing, consciously unmasking my traits. I told him it wasn't a cornerstone for all autistic people, as autism exists on a spectrum. He kept cutting me off to ask me, do you know how well you're communicating right now? Do you hear how well you're communicating? Like, yes, motherfucker, I've been practicing this for the better part of a year. Anyway, he asked if I was aware of my communication skills. I said yes. He kept harping on it, so I gave him some context. I began reading at age 3. I was the youngest in my school's history to be in the gifted program. I spent years in therapy as an adult working on my communication. Here it comes. He responded by saying, maybe it's narcissism. Maybe you're a narcissist. He said this after I'd told him about my 11 accumulated years of emotional psychological abuse at the hands of narcissists. After I'd told him about autistic masking, after telling him how often girls and women go undiagnosed, and that was his response. I said, I'm giving you information to help you help me. Women are allowed to be confident in their abilities. We don't have to go through life hating ourselves for existing. And he said, you're bragging about your IQ, and he also said the greatness of your qualities and how you're smarter than the experts. I couldn't fit all of that into a tweet, but I was not only stunned, but fucking horrified. I provided pertinent contextual information and he called it bragging. I asked him if he was aware of the updated guidelines for autism that were published in the March's update of the DSM-5, and he said, listen, I don't think you have autism. And I literally said to him, so that's a no. I'm running out of time, so I'm just going to pop the rest of the thread on here and you can pause to read the rest. This thread ended up being viewed over 2 million times. I was interviewed by Glamour UK about this. And if you want to read more, go to my Twitter and check it out. It's a pinned thread up top. Yes, and the thing is, I should have clarified this earlier, but when he called me that, he actually called me that twice. And when I say call me that, I mean, that was not him diagnosing me with narcissistic personality disorder. He said it in very much a jab, like a cheap fucking shot, because that diagnosis never ended up on my chart, because he didn't diagnose me with that, because you can't diagnose someone with narcissistic personality disorder based on one thing that they say. And he was fucking upset that I was standing up for myself. Like, I don't fucking know. Like, in the recording, you hear the derision in his voice. It's palpable. And it was meant as an insult, not a diagnosis. So, I'm getting a lot of Kyles, Brads, and Chads in my comments saying, well, if a psychiatrist diagnosed you, then it must be true. As if human beings can't be fallible. As if people can't be wrong. Like, can we stop deifying medical professionals? Because they clearly don't fucking give a fuck. And I'm going to be sharing a lot more about medical misogyny. I will be reading my Glamour article on here at some point, and I'll be reading another article that I found this week that basically talks about how, in the US anyway, until 1993, women were not required to be included in clinical research. So if you're a dude with a truck and a one-syllable name, I do not want to fucking hear it. No, I didn't freeze. I'm staring you the fuck down. And this goes for anyone else who feels way too comfortable speaking out of their depth way too often. Be nice or be gone, because you can't do that here. We do not do that here. And if you don't like that, then you'll really fucking hate this. Self-diagnosis in the autistic community is perfectly valid because of stories like mine and stories that are way fucking worse. Autistic people are at a higher risk of suicide because of issues like this, because we're living in a world not built for us, because no one gives a fuck about autistic adults, because we're made to suppress our traits. Like, I could go on until I fall over dead, but I'll spare you. I was self-diagnosed for a year, dismissed by this man twice, and then I was officially confirmed autistic this year by an autistic health provider. No matter what stage you're at in this process, I am so fucking proud of you. It doesn't matter if you're self-diagnosed or if you've always known or if you are questioning whether you might be autistic or might have ADHD. The fact that you're asking these questions about yourself is a huge fucking step that a lot of people never even get to. So yeah, sorry, I had time to go off a little bit. And I hope I didn't scare anybody off, except for the Kyles, Brads, and Chads. Women are people and we should be taken seriously. Bye! I need to speak on this right now. I am so fucking tired of my 30 years of lived experience not being good enough for some people. I'm tired of having to be an activist in all of my sessions and appointments with medical health professionals. You leaving a comment on someone's content, someone that you don't know, and telling them that they're lying or they're wrong, doesn't say anything about the creator you commented on. It says everything about your audacity and your entitlement. By and large, do you want to guess who the biggest perpetrator of this is that I've experienced so far? You don't even need 3 guesses, do you? And if this fucking pandemic didn't show you this, I'll tell you. The world at large is like a decade or 2 decades behind breaking medical research. And sure, I understand if you're not affected by something, then why would you research it like in your free time? Like, I totally understand not taking it upon yourself to research something that doesn't directly affect you. So when someone lives their life thinking that they're broken and wrong and a failure, and they find out the answer to that feeling as an adult, and they're not broken and they're not a failure, that is not up for debate. especially from the likes of user 8675309 with no profile picture and no followers. If you're going to be an asshole to a complete stranger and you don't have the guts to even show your face, then you already lost. And just because you lack the capacity for empathy and seeing others' perspectives doesn't mean that you get to discredit my perspective. So disrespectfully, miss me with that bullshit. And this is something that I just thought of. This kind of behavior leads me to think that seeing someone who struggled their whole life finally find the answer and start loving themselves makes you fucking jealous, doesn't it? None of this has to be this way. That's the gag. None of this has to be this way. There's an entire generation of lost autistic people who were never identified, who are finally finding the answers for themselves online. And you speak about the internet like it's a passing fad, like this is 1994. You discredit social media like Twitter and TikTok. These platforms are helping people find their answers. And you're using these platforms to what? Be a fucking jerk? Please do us all a favor. Remove thyself. Go somewhere where that toxic misogyny is accepted like fucking Truth Social, okay? And as for me and other creators like me, we'll just be here doing our thing and keeping you awake at night. Okay?
Oh, you're autistic? You must be high functioning. Bitch. Any functioning I'm doing is against my own will.
Real quick, I would love to say thank you to everyone who took the time to watch this video on here and read my thread on Twitter and offer support and well wishes. I've been trying to leave this drafty lead-painted dump for a couple of years now, but it's hard to do that in the midst of a global pandemic when I am unemployed and disabled. I am a self-taught artist. I paint watercolors. I've been featured in fine art galleries, and I was a part of my first art festival this year. I've only made a handful of sales in this last month or two. So if you all like art and would like to support a disabled artist who's trying to better her situation, then you can visit my Linktree and check my shop out. And if that's not your thing, that's totally cool. The fact that you're here and commenting and interacting and giving me your genuine support is really, really helpful to me. I've had people blame me for my situation and tell me to essentially suck it up and just move, but those things can't happen without money. That pesky reality always getting in the way, am I right? Today has been better by default, and I just wanted to hop on here and express my sincere gratitude to everyone who has reached out. Support local artists, and all landlords are bastards. Bye!
It's gonna be me.
Because I didn't need captions that much growing up either, but it's like the older I got, the more I needed them because my mind was thinking about more things and I was like trying to relate it to my own experience. Now I can't watch something without captions because I'm spending too much time trying to decipher what they're saying. I don't know how that ties into it, but like, I need to talk about that. Hello, this is me talking about that. When I was a kid, it was easier to take things at face value because I didn't have any insider knowledge or life experience. So you kind of had to take things at face value. And that includes like watching stuff. Wow, that was fucking eloquent, wasn't it? Like if you're watching a movie or a TV show and there's dialogue or there's something funny happening, I was very in the moment with that as a kid. And I didn't really need subtitles. I could kind of pay attention to what they were saying. Such is not the case anymore. And I think the reason for that is multifold. For one, there's such a fucking oversaturation of media nowadays that I'm constantly looking at actors being like, where have I seen them? I need to Google this. I need to Google the cast after this, but I don't want to see spoilers, so I have to wait until after the end because I hate fucking ruining it for myself, but I always do. Or wow, this reminds me of a life experience I had, and let me tie this to my emotions. Let me associate this with something that went on in my life. My mind is going millions of miles an hour during something. So what they're saying, you lost me. You lost me. I would rather read it. I would rather read it on screen. But as I've gotten older, that hasn't been a preference as much as it's been a requirement because so many times I try to watch things without captions and I can last maybe a minute before I'm reaching for the remote. Before the pandemic, when I was in my early 20s, I used to go every Tuesday to a matinee movie by myself, and looking back on it, I really only retained about 40% of the movie because my brain was doing all these calculations about what they're saying and trying to decipher it and getting jumbled and missing things, and my mind would dart to one place and then dart to the other place, and then 5 minutes would go by and I had not been paying attention at all. But I thought that that's how everyone viewed movies. I thought that's how everyone consumed content. So until movie theaters implement subtitles, or at least implement showings that have subtitles, I probably won't be going back to one. Being inside for almost 3 years has fucking spoiled me. I need my captions. I need my subtitles. My brain needs all the help it can get these days. Anyone else? Something's been on my mind lately that I kind of want to speak on. I don't understand why there is so much external pressure from society to forge real life friendships, I understand the need for connection, obviously, but there are so many ways nowadays to find friends, make friends, talk to friends, spend time with friends. And in the midst of a global pandemic where I'm not interested in catching COVID and many of my friends are not either, we have to communicate online because I don't do phone calls. I do not do phone calls. Like, we're 22 years into the 21st century and people are still talking about the internet like it's a passing fad. I've spoken on that before. It's infuriating and annoying and objectively false. The internet's here to fucking stay. I put as much value in the friendships and connections that I make online through social media as I do in the real world. And actually, in these past few years, even more so because I've been protecting myself from COVID. I hate seeing shamey posts about if they don't have any fucking friends, that's a red flag. And then their definition of a friend is someone that you go places with. Like, that sounds like an errand buddy. That doesn't sound like a friend. Like, doing errands with someone does not a friend make. Like, don't you kind of have to have love for the person and care about their thoughts and opinions and geek out about the same shit and cry on each other's shoulders? Like, isn't that what a friend is? I don't know. I just don't like feeling all the external pressure to go out there and make friends. Also, I think it's easier to learn about a person online than it is in person, because if they're not there, you can go on their profile and read their thoughts and like find out what they like and take a peek inside their mind and see if you mesh immediately. And you can't do that at a bar. I wish you fucking could. So I guess all I want to say is online friendships are just as valid as real life friendships in this day and age, and the people who are boo-booing the internet need to go find something else to do. I've been meaning to talk about this on here forever, and I kept forgetting until I remembered. These are just a few ways that my partner and I sort of AuDHD friendlied our home before either of us even knew that we were both AuDHD. It's just things that we naturally did to make each other comfortable and to make ourselves comfortable and to be able to coexist and be comfortable at the same time. First, we have 2 TVs in the living room. We have the larger one and then a slightly smaller one next to it on its own TV stand, and it's one for each of us. We can play games together. I could be watching something while he's playing a game, or vice versa. We take turns with the volume. We never played volume on both TVs at the same time. That's fucking illegal. And another thing we do that I came up with a silly term for last night is blanket autonomy. And I'll explain what that means. We don't use queen-size bedding for our queen-size bed. I mean, we have the thing that like goes over the mattress, but we each have our own set of blankets and duvets, and obviously pillows. He doesn't like his covers tucked in. I need my covers tucked in. So my half of the bed is tucked. His half of the bed is untucked. We never fight over blankets. We never tug of war in our sleep with covers. It's absolute bliss. When either of us gets up to go to the bathroom, neither one of us notices. We both already have trouble sleeping, so like, why would we implement nightly tug of war into our already fucked up sleep schedules? It just simplifies everything. I've cohabitated with partners before, and like a fifth of our fights was about, I didn't fucking sleep last night because you kept pulling the blanket off of me. God! These are unnecessary conflicts that we have erased from our lives, and now looking back on it, we laugh because those are big, the signs were there type things. I'm sure that there's more that I haven't even really registered as being like AuDHD friendlying the place, but I'll have to share with y'all our hacks as I think of them. I want to know if you have AuDHD friendlied your home. Do you have little tips, tricks, hacks, anything that has simplified your home life with a partner or alone, or with family or friends, whatever your situation is? I want to hear from you. Does anyone else wish that they could remove their brain and put it in an ice bath sometimes because it's in constant overheat mode because of... I would be happy if my brain had a task manager so that I could end the 437 simultaneous songs that are in my head at any given time. But never do I yearn for this more than when I'm trying to fucking sleep. The other morning I woke up to use the bathroom. When I laid back down, my brain decided that now was a good time to play Beyonce's entire discography in my head. I'm talking Dangerously in Love, I'm talking B-Day, I'm talking 4, I'm talking the self-title, I'm talking Lemonade, I'm talking Renaissance. I would also settle with putting it in a jar on a shelf for like a month. When I was a freshman in high school, I went to a home basketball game and I was hanging out in the student section with my friends and having a grand old time, and then all of a sudden I got really hot and then I couldn't see and then I passed out, and then my dad was there with me, and when I came to, I was laying down on the bleachers and my friend was waving a payday bar in my face and my dad looked super upset with me, and then on the way home he said, "What happened to you? Why did you pass out?" And I said, "I forgot to eat. I'm sorry." And he said, "How the fuck do you forget to eat?" And here I am 16 years later to say, "I have ADHD, father."
This shit gonna be different. I promise for you it is. You're gonna be who you thought you'd become since you was a little kid. In 6 months you're gonna look back and think, damn, I didn't think I was capable of this. But you are. This time you're not gonna miss. I know you're tired of the cycles you're running through. You feel trapped in the nightmares are coming true. This time you're not gonna quit when it's hard. Everything you want and more's gonna come to you, and you deserve it. You are worth it. You're gonna thank yourself for not giving up when you felt it start hurting. You're gonna stop spending so much damn money and cut off the friends that been acting funny. This the year that's not gonna be as sweet, so the rest of your life you can swim in honey. I see you at the end. Why don't you come back and tell me all about it? I know you can do it. You just gotta know that you got it. Happy New Year.
Don't know who they are, they don't know what characteristics they have, they don't know how other people see them.
This is a really good topic, so I encourage you to watch the rest of that creator's video. I've talked about unmasking before and how instead of pretending or putting on an act of being more autistic or more AuDHD, that I'm taking it off. I'm letting go of my mask, but I don't think I've talked about what lies beneath that. And given my history with CPTSD, it becomes infinitely more complicated. Like, I truly feel like most of my life was me listening to other people talk about their interests, but when it was my turn to talk about mine, no one wanted to fucking hear it. So I had to learn very young and very quickly that what I wanted to talk about was not what any fucking body else wanted to talk about. And that's really painful. That is a hard pill to swallow, especially as a young person. Like, in elementary school, this started for me. So 20 some odd years later, I find out that I'm AuDHD. And then the metamorphosis begins of like going through my liked songs and being like, I don't even fucking like this song. I skip it every single time it comes on, but for some reason I saved it because this one person loved it. And like, I was changing my preferences for people who like weren't even in the room with me or like didn't even know that I was changing my own preferences. Whenever I take like stupid little internet quizzes about myself, I genuinely don't know how to answer them most of the time. I remember being like in 5th grade and this popular girl, I thought she had like the best fashion sense and I like wanted to be her because I was like, if I am her, then people will maybe like me. So I made my mom take me shopping for clothes that were the same as her clothes. God, I've never said that shit out loud. That's fucking embarrassing. But yeah, nobody bought it. I genuinely had no idea how I presented to the world for the longest time because it wasn't really me, so it was just a big fucking question mark all this time. And when I started up on TikTok, I said, okay, I'm going to unmask. I'm not going to try to put back on a mask because I just spent a year and some change actively and consciously chipping away at my multi-layered, multi-decade mask. And on the playbacks, I did not recognize myself because I wasn't hyper aware of my facial expressions, my chin, my teeth, my eyebrows, my forehead, none of that. And my God, how fucking liberating. It's going to take a long ass time to undo every facet of my mask and unlearn all of these trauma responses that have been accumulating for fucking decades. The thing that's helped me change my self-perception the most, like in short term, is like coming to terms with the fact that I was doing the best with what I had, and I deserve to forgive myself, you know? It wasn't that I was being fake. I was adapting like a fucking, I don't know, chameleon. I was trying to survive. Does anyone ever really like know who they are though? I feel like I'm going to be spending the rest of my life figuring that out and trying to walk in those shoes as my true self. So yeah, what do you think? Whoo boy, let's talk about this one. From puberty onward, I feel like my body temperature regulation, what regulation? I cannot drink hot drinks. I can't do it. The only exception to this, which looking back on it retrospectively was a big sign, was that I would only drink hot coffee, like in college, if I sat outside in like sub-zero fucking weather. With no coat, mind you, no coat. If I had $1 for every single time I was asked by an adult growing up, where is your coat? Oh my God, you're going to freeze to death. You're going to die of hypothermia. I didn't have the language then that I do now to be like, listen, I sweat like a sumbitch, okay? I cannot wear a coat because getting overheated for me has severe physical consequences. And I don't hear people talking about this much because, like, people are so gatekeepy about temperature. Like, what? What do you mean you can't handle 98-degree weather? Shut the fuck up with that, please, can we? But anyway, as soon as I feel the heat wave rush over me, my head immediately starts getting swimmy. It will turn into a searing headache. My stomach starts roiling and I get really nauseous. I have vomited from overheating an embarrassing amount of times in my life. I'm about to live through my 4th winter in this drafty shithole of a duplex. My first 2 winters I lived here alone. I have no central heating or air. I relied on 2, as seen on TV, space heaters to keep me warm, and they display the internal temperature, and the lowest that it got was 38 degrees in my living room where I could see my breath. So like living like that for a couple of years has definitely altered my core body temperature even more. Now it's to the point where it was 45 degrees today, for instance. I had the windows open all day long. It felt amazing. But as soon as the sun went in, I turned on the space heater. I relented. But like, I'm also an avoid socks at almost all costs type bitch. So unless the floor is ice cold, I will not wear socks. For the same reasons. My foot temperature kind of regulates my body temperature-ish. If my feet are cold, I'm more comfortable. If my feet are hot, get those the fuck off of me. Also, my toes sweat, and I cannot be the only one. I cannot be the only one. I guess you could say that I run hot if I crave and prefer cold. What about you? Do you run cold? Do you run hot? Are you an always wear socks type bitch or a never wear socks type bitch? Like, I'm dressed like it's July right now. One adult problem that I didn't realize was going to be an adult problem until I became an adult and it became a problem was having to choose what to eat multiple times a day, every single day for the rest of my life. What the fuck is this? I want a refund.
Bite my tongue, it's a bad habit.
Oh, I've got this one. So, I think I'm going to text Jason tonight. Oh, he's cool. I love Friday the 13th.
Nothing can go wrong. Oh no, it all went wrong.
We don't talk about Bruno, no. We don't talk about Bruno, but Bruno's autistic.
Statistically, for every 1 year of trauma that you are dealt with, it takes you 3 years to recover.
I already process things at a delayed rate. And when I say delayed rate, I mean sometimes it's years later. And then my nervous system will all but completely overheat and melt and shut down. And I have to piece together, like the movie Memento, why am I in peril this time, you know? So if it really takes 3 years to recover from 1 year of trauma, if I don't live to be 200, I'm going to be pissed. Okay, put a finger down if you prepare your bites beforehand while you're eating a meal, and then when you're down to your last bite of something, you take the time to really let it sink in that the food's about to be over. And if you're kind of absentmindedly snacking with like fries or chips or something, and you go to get another one and they're gone, and you didn't know that the one that you ate was your last one, so you didn't get the chance to relish in that moment, and then you get really sad.
What it's like to be known as dead. Now open up your eyes, you see the world that is red. Now what's the word, Captain?
I just don't get it. You took a shower, you changed your sheets, you put on your most comfortable clothes. How could you still be overstimulated? I can feel my teeth. What? I can feel my fucking teeth.
Okay, so you're neurotypical.
That don't impress me much.
It's almost as if the inception of the internet has allowed us to expand our knowledge about neurodevelopmental differences instead of relying on an outdated manual written by and for white men. But go off, I guess. Sometimes I don't talk about things that I'm extremely passionate about because I cannot find the language to express what's going on inside my mind. Harassing people on here from a burner account is one thing, but to see a 10-second snapshot of my life on here and then try to tell me that I'm wrong about my lived experiences and about my diagnoses and medications and opinions and my whole existence is incorrect, that level of delusion is just... Words escape me. And I'm talking about specific experiences and instances that have happened in the month and one day that I've been on TikTok. These instances are in no way unique to me, in no way unique to TikTok, in no way unique to the internet. The current diagnostic criteria for the official medical model diagnosis of autism is based on external presentations only. It's based on how that person affects you, how their behavior affects you. And autistic behavior is pathologized as deficits. But here's the thing about that. Humanity is infinitely nuanced. Using the DSM-5 as a Bible is an extreme disservice to women, to all people of color, to the LGBTQ plus community, to any marginalized group of people who aren't cis-het white men. High-masking autistic people exist. You're listening to one speak to you right now. And if it makes you upset that people like me exist, that is not my fucking problem. Speaking for myself personally here, what the world sees of my autism represents one star in the night sky, right? It's a tiny glowing orb, but it exists and you can lay your eyes on it. But the reality of my autism is the entirety of that night sky, and all of that exists internally, invisible to the naked eye, to the layman, to people who use the DSM-5 as the medical Bible, not realizing who it was written by, who it was written for, and why it was written. In the US, women were not required to be included in clinical research until June 10th, 1993, when Congress passed the NIH Revitalization Act. I was already on this earth waddling around in diapers when this came to pass. So it's hard for me to understand people's anger towards me that I don't fit that official medical model diagnosis that's currently in the DSM-5. Instead of getting mad at people who have been told that they're a fuck up their whole life and have been masking to survive, why don't you direct that rage toward the system that has excluded over half of its population until less than 30 years ago? Because that's what's infuriating to me. Some of y'all can't see past your internalized misogyny and ableism. But again, not my problem. Late discovered autistic people don't owe you shit. Bye. It's becoming increasingly difficult for me to read every comment that comes my way, but I do need to speak on this one really quickly. This is not coming from a place of anger, hatred, shade, anything like that. And I think I know what you're trying to say, but I just need to make it perfectly clear. We don't do the supremacy thing here. We don't do the hierarchical thing here. No one is a better human than another human because of their neurotype. And to me personally, what defines a good human, it's pretty wide parameters. Live and let live and don't be an asshole. That's it. Creative people are important, vital, necessary, but someone's inherent traits do not make them better than any other human on the planet. And to think that way is really dangerous, especially in today's socio-political climate where we're brinking on the edge of fucking World War III. So I just want to be perfectly clear that supremacist and hierarchical language of any sort is not supported by me in any way. And please, I do not mean this to be offensive or upsetting to the commenter. Please do not send them any hate or anything, because I do believe that I know what they're trying to say. Capitalism is deadly. It's disabling. It's toxic. That's a given. I 1,000,000% agree with that. And without the existence of capitalism, for me personally, that would eliminate 85% of my problems right like that. But for me, when it comes to my sensory processing issues and communication issues, they're there regardless. And I'm new to all of this. I have only been confirmed autistic for a handful of months. I was self-diagnosed for almost a year up until that point. I'm learning the language and adapting and modifying as I go. And I really encourage other late discovered autistic people to do the same, because language is important and intent matters. And I do not want the lines here on my page to be muddy about where I stand on this kind of mindset. Different does not mean better.
Hey! Ability to measure like amounts. You are amount blind.
Oh my God. Go watch her video right now because it gave me a That's So Raven type epiphany about how I am also amount blind as fuck. Talks about different variables like age, distance, etc. But I want to talk about my quantity blindness. DJ does most of the grocery shopping because it's the pits of hell for me. So like when I need to remind him to get something, I'll look in the fridge at our Coca-Colas and we'll have 6 cans left. And then I'll be like, we're out of Cokes. Could you pick up some Cokes? And the same goes for like our bottled water. Baby, we're down to our last 9 bottles. This is an emergency. Part of that is me counting ahead and rationing and portioning out what we have. Part of that is me growing up in and out of poverty. Part of that is me recognizing the inevitability that we're going to need it eventually. So get it while we can. It's the same with like toilet paper, cat litter, cat food, anything. Do y'all relate to this at all? I'm kind of going the fuck through it right now. I feel like my brain chemistry is just betraying me over and over every single month. And like, I know why. It's because I'm menstruating, but that doesn't make it any less brutal. My whole life, I was told that I was just being dramatic and making my symptoms up, and was told that I just needed to accept how my menstrual cycle makes me feel because it's just the way that it is. I've brought up PMDD to doctors before and they've dismissed me out of hand. Go fucking figure. But after finding out that I'm autistic and learning that 92% of autistic people who menstruate experience PMDD, it was so validating to hear that. But I've never like openly talked about it, and I figured that now is a good time to do it while I'm in the throes of it because I can best describe what I'm feeling while I'm feeling it. If I'm lucky, I have 1.5 to 2 weeks out of a month where I can effectively do things and be a human being and complete tasks. But in these 2 weeks where my hormones are all fucky, I take whatever energy I get in whatever sporadic spurts to do what the fuck I need to do. But navigating every minute between those spurts is bleak. And when this is happening, my brain loves to remind me of everything that hurts me. It sends me into this lonely spiral that I cannot put into words. It reminds me of how isolated I am. I'm reminded of how long it's been since I've had a quote-unquote best friend. And since the beginning of the pandemic, all of my friends have lived in my phone. I can count on one hand the exceptions that I've made to spend time with friends while also worrying about my health. But my online life lately has been so fucking chaotic. Every day that goes by, every day that I just sit and watch the numbers go up, the lonelier I feel. It's really easy for me to express these feelings because I'm in a room by myself, talking to myself to my phone. These feelings keep me up at night and sometimes wake me up. And ever since my TikTok has started to grow, it's been really nice to make some connections with a few people. All of these eyes on me, though, is really fucking overwhelming, and it's more than my mind can even compute. And my birthday is in 2 days on Christmas Eve, and this time of year has always been difficult. But I'll get through it. I don't have a choice.
Hopelessness and despair when it comes to my relationship.
This is a great video, and I really encourage you to watch the rest because she talks about burnout and how difficult it is to navigate burnout while trying to live your normal life. And I want to talk about my experience in being an undiagnosed AuDHDer until very recently, and how that manifested in my hopping from job to job and my chronic burnout. Hindsight really is 2020 because looking back, all the signs were there and all the patterns were there. Like even going back to what I majored in college. Like I applied as pre-med because my parents wanted me to, but in my heart of hearts, I didn't want to fucking do that shit. Not because it's shit, but because my brain refuses to like sit through lectures about chemistry and fucking molecules and shit. Like I can't do it. So I majored in music because I've been singing my whole life. And I have a Bachelor of Music degree in vocal performance that I earned in East Tennessee. So the classical music and opera scene around here is a bit lacking. That career path takes money that I don't have, that my previous generations don't have, that my family tree just does not have. So that led to me taking a lot of odd jobs throughout my 20s. I've worked a whole bunch of retail, a whole bunch of customer service, office jobs, food. And this is the exact pattern that would inevitably take place every single time I got a new job. I would apply, I would get a call, I would get an interview, and I would get hired. And all those positive interactions happening over and over was flooding my brain with dopamine because I felt like I was doing something right by being selected. And I would get trained at this new job, and if I didn't pick up on the training quickly, it really frustrated me. So like taking my work seriously at first and trying my best was rewarding my brain with dopamine because I was doing things like correctly. But then the bullshit would creep in every single time. Coworker drama, nasty customers, horrible managers. Living through hundreds, if not thousands, of micro interactions during the day, the negative ones started to build up really, really quickly. It would get to a point where my stomach would start to hurt the night before I had to wake up for a shift because my body was telling me that this job was not good for my health, but I just wouldn't listen until it wasn't my choice anymore. Anxiety about waking up and going to these shit jobs started affecting me physically. Insomnia, nausea, vomiting, not eating, being irritable. And that would cause me to like give up and not give a fuck about my job anymore. I've never given a 2-week notice anywhere that I've ever worked in my life. Most of these places I would just stop showing up. And the shame that surrounded that fucked me up for such a long time until I learned that I'm AuDHD. And then it made perfect sense why mundane cookie cutter jobs and I just did not mix. We were like oil and water. It's really fucked up that people with executive dysfunction and time blindness are seen as lazy pieces of shit because we can't conform to holistic neurotypical standards. Take it from me, you are not a piece of shit for being burned out and feeling this way.